Hey, on this Acidity Saturday, I hope everybody's doing good. I'm making this video because it's a long video and it was too much to comment on the other person's video. Is this lady I follow? She's a mutual of mine, and she made a video about her biracial children getting off easily, in her opinion, because they're half white. Well, I and many of her followers have seen her children, and for the record, I'm a mono black person. Both of my parents are black. They're not biracial. Some might think I'm biracial. I'm not, because I have some characteristics of some people who look biracial. Not all, because you can be biracial and have straight hair. But anyways, for the record, people were making comments, and as well as I, because the way she started the video was basically imperatively saying that biracial people get off easily because white people can see the whiteness in them. I don't deny that. But many of the people and myself were like, that's not always true. And it is not, depending on where you are, what part of the globe in America that you are in. Because I made comments to her, and she made a separate post to me, and I was like, what you're not getting that we're saying is, for one, your children may get off because they're biracial, because she described them as being a lighter skin or high yellow, which the children are about my complexion, give or take. Hair's about mine, or fro-like, or give or take. They don't have very bone straight hair at all. They're not very, very white skinned at all, and they're not dark skinned either. They're in between. But I was saying, and a lot of other people were like, okay, we get that, but not making your children choose black or white, but in a lot of places they would be perceived as mono black, because mono black people are like me, light skin, curly hair, which curly hair is not necessarily a white characteristic at all. White people have very straight hair and can have wavy or curly hair, but black people generally have curly hair, and one other culture of people. But she made another video that talked about how black people, we hate ourselves and we don't like how we've been treated, so we make or force biracial people, and I'm not even going to say black and white, but it could be black and whatever race, choose to be black, and that is not always the case. But even though I understand that's her perspective on it, I have degrees, and like, if I come on and say something is my opinion, and it is my opinion, but people are taking what she's saying to like stock, because it's so declaratively speaking, and I think it's more the perspective that she has or her children have had. I don't know if they have a conversation, but what she does not understand is, just like we have 23 chromosomes from mom and dad, we still come out one gender for the most part. And I'm not saying anything, we don't choose our gender, like we can't choose what we look like necessarily. So if I'm part man and woman, but I was born a feminine, people identify with me as the feminine. The same thing goes for race. If you are a biracial person and you have more of a trait of blackness than white, or whichever one, yeah, people will resonate to that. But there are people who, I just found out last year, don't even look as biracial people as black people. I thought that was kind of sad. Regardless of the biracial person being, I was brought up with my black family, so I'm going to identify as black or biracial or whichever one. It's a culture of people that are black that do not even acknowledge them as being black, even though they're black in whatever culture that they are. But to get some clarity on her video, it's the same thing. I was born from a man and a woman, but I was born a woman, so people identify with me as a woman. And the same thing is with biracial people. But regardless of that, the world has taught us to be labeled. They teach culturally by media, we are looked at a certain way, but it's not always because black people we just hate ourselves. You could say a black person hates themselves, and that's why they want to have children with a person that's non-black, because they want their children to look a certain way. I don't think that's the case at all. I think that people fall in love with who they fall in love with. Do you see what I'm saying? So to say that black people hate themselves and how what blackness is represented, I don't think that's a fair statement, especially for an American or an African American black person. The perspective of somebody else who grew up in another country and later relocated here, you sometimes are treated differently than the black person who's born in America. Africans that are native of other countries, when they come here, white people treat them differently than they treat black people who are born here. Actually, in a better way. And that has nothing to do with skin color necessarily. It's about the different mindsets that we have. But like I said, it's all about perspective and perception. What people perceive is what they're going to identify with. Now, what biracial children identify with is based on how they grew up, how they feel, and I don't care as a black person because we have other things to be arguing about or trying to make better for ourselves than issues about being biracial and who accepts us. It's just that sometimes when people make comments, they can't accept the backlash of what they say and just let people have their own opinions or agree to disagree. Because a lot of people were disagreeing with her because I was like, well, I live in Mississippi. If you look like me, whether they see you as biracial or not, they're going to hate the white part of you because that white person slept with a black person, and they're going to hate the black because they're just black. And you're not going to get off not without getting a ticket. Or, I understand her point, but that she just made it sound like that 100% biracial children will get a free ride because they're white. And I even pointed out, I understood what she was saying because I remember being younger in school and people resonating to me more than they would the darker skinned black people. Or a teacher treating me like that. And her response, well, that's because you look white. Is it? Or maybe, I don't know. I don't think I look white at all. I identify as completely mono black. My family is dark skinned black people mostly. And I was never, whatever. Nobody ever told me that. I had a cousin who told me that. I looked at her like she was crazy. But I'm like, okay, fine. I get it. But I just think that people can have differing opinions on things and agree to disagree. And, generally saying something, I get you might not be talking to me. You're talking to the people that don't like their blackness, but it might not be that they don't like their blackness. It's just that they don't like that when we see people who look like me, who black people can probably see that I'm black. I don't think a lot of black people, I don't know. I never asked. I've never done a survey. So I can't say statistically, but I identify as black. I think I am perceived as a black woman. I don't think I'm necessarily looked at as biracial. But based on that, they're saying it because they see the blackness in your children or other people that they know who may be biracial and feel like they don't agree with what you're saying. It's nothing to do with us not liking ourselves at all. And it was nothing about rejecting the blackness. It was just the fact that the comment about the police giving them a okay because they could see the whiteness, I think that kind of threw people off because it just doesn't happen. It's not, it wouldn't happen everywhere, like I said. So, yeah.